Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. I thank him for his leadership in bringing this legislation to the floor and his ongoing leadership in protecting the national interest of the American people as chairman of the Financial Services Committee. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of Chairman Rangel of the Ways and Means Committee for the legislation that was debated earlier about how the American people can get their money back. Money paid in bonuses for failure, money paid that belongs to the taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, today we're gathered on the floor to address the symptom, the bonuses, a symptom of a challenge that we face in our economy and in our financial situation in our country. I believe the President is on the right path and did an excellent job in his leadership when we passed the Recovery Act here. This Congress is moving forward with regulatory reform to address the lack of regulation, supervision, and discipline in the financial markets that brought us to this place, that the President's initiatives on housing will help people stay in their homes, and that addressing the housing crisis is essential to addressing the financial crisis in our country. And then we have to deal with the stability of our financial institutions. And as we are in the course of doing that, with a massive infusion of cash from the Fed on September 16th, long before some in this body were even elected to the Congress, the Federal Reserve transferred these funds and the many funds since then without any requirements or conditions. We come to a point where it is very clear that there are many in our country who believe that the way a free market system works for them and not in the national interest is to nationalize the risk and privatize the gain. They are entrepreneurial, take risks, enjoy the benefits when success is there, but when it is not, these undue risks have to be paid for by the taxpayer, or so they think. It's just not right. We all believe in a free market system. We all see that capitalism produces jobs and creates capital, and that is important. It creates wealth. That's important. The success of our economy, creating jobs especially. But it isn't right. It just simply isn't right when there is a reward, a spelled out in advance reward for those who will take undue risk. When they fail, they get a bonus, the taxpayer gets the bill. This must end. And today, with these two resolutions, I think that we are making two important statements. One is that the administration should continue in its efforts to recover the money and prevent these bonuses from going forward. And the other is that we want our money back, and we want our money back now for the taxpayers. This isn't that complicated. It isn't that complicated. There are other issues, other steps that we can take. And working in a bipartisan way on the committees of jurisdiction, Financial Services Committee for one, we will have other pieces of legislation which will ensure that this can never happen again. We're working on with the Judiciary Committee to say when is the national interest so offended that it is okay then to revisit a contract. You hear all this talk about, oh, we can't revisit contracts, it's the Constitution, and we respect that, and we would not do so unless we would do so very carefully. But nobody seems to have a problem saying to auto workers in Michigan that their contracts must be revisited, that they have to take a deep cut in order to sustain an industry, because that industry is important to our national security. We must have a manufacturing base, and we cannot have it be undermined. So if the workers' contracts are so subject to review and revision, why is it that when somebody gives a contract for a bonus to somebody for failure, which is known not to be in the national interest, that you can't even even bring up the subject. Well, that isn't the subject for today in terms of legislation, but the subject of fairness and justice is. And I would hope that going forth from today, we could work strongly in a bipartisan way to address the real challenges to our economy and the challenge that the fragility of our financial institutions poses. We have to really say, is it worth it to us to transfer hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money, as Secretary Paulson asked us to do on September 18th when he and Chairman Bernanke visited the Congress? What are the results? Where is the credit circulating on Main Street? And just getting back to the bonuses for a minute, because of the failure of AIG and the downturn for so many other financial institutions in our country, our people do not have job security. They're afraid of losing their jobs, their homes, their pensions, the college education of their children. It's just not right. There is a direct connection between this nationalizing the risk and privatizing the gain and the economic security of America's families and the strength of Main Street. So let's take a step and say, we want our money back. Here's one way to get it. And then let's work together to do more in that regard, to bring justice to the system, but more importantly, to work together to bring stability to our economy. With that, I urge our colleagues to support the resolutions before us and yield back the balance of my time.